Happy Tuesday, everyone. We have some fun stuff coming your way today. A little bit more slower pace today again. We're going to work on some strength work, but gymnastics focus today. So let's have some fun today. Our opening sequence is going to consist of a plank to down dog for 3 to 5, forearm plank hold, 20 to 30 seconds, plank lean, 10 alternating with a 1 to 2 second hold per side, quad plank to toe touch for 20 seconds of just dynamic movement, and then a prone shoulder raise for 6 to 10 alternating reps back and forth. 2 to 3 rounds to take that down, just kind of priming up the shoulders, getting everything ready to go, and then we'll move down into our next phase of warm-up, which is going to continue to warm up the upper body and work on getting the shoulders primed. We have a floor pike hold for 10 to 30 seconds, which we're also going to use as an option for a handstand in our work set today, so keep that in mind if that's another nice option that you've used in the past. Great option and great variation for you today. Forearm Side Plank Hip Dip for 20 seconds per side, just dynamic movement. Plank Shoulder Touch for 10 alternating. Forearm Plank Hip Dip, 20 seconds of just dynamic movement. And then a dynamic triangle to help stretch you out, open you up a little bit after that, 3 to 5 reps per side. Our workout today, or our work set, I should say, because the entire day is our workout, but our work set today is an on the minute for 10 minutes. You're going to do minute number 1 is going to be spent doing a handstand hold of anywhere from 30 to 45 seconds. And I want you guys to have some transition time and some time to chill out so you can get to your next exercise. Minute number 2 is a dumbbell bent row of 5 to 8 reps per side, or a dumbbell pullover for 10 to 20 reps, depending on where you want to live in that work set today and what you want to work on. Whatever time frame you have left over after the bent rows or the dumbbell pullover, you'll just rest, shake yourself out, get ready to rock the handstand hold or handstand variation, and repeat 5 times, which is a total of 10 minutes. Afterwards, I have this little piece down here, and you can take it 1 round, 3 rounds, 7 rounds, who knows? But it's just a little bit of shoulder love. You're going to work on the I.W.Ys and Y.s for 5 each, windmill for 6 to 10 alternating reps, and then you're going to finish off with some overhead good mornings for 5 reps total. So you can use that as a nice chance to open up the body, warm up the shoulders a little bit after all that work we just did with them, and get a nice warm down, not a cool down, but a warm down. Let's get you ready to go. We'll have some fun today with some gymnastic strength, and we'll kickstart off kind of day 2 of our week, moving into our intensity later into the week. All right, let's get those feet under the hips. We're going to take the arms up big and tall. Arms in that good overhead position. Let's lose our neck and shrug, keeping the arms straight. Let's pull those arms back down, keeping the arms straight. Take them up, pull them down, take them up, pull them down, and then let's take it out to the T. Turn them in, turn them out, turn them in, turn them out, and turn them in, and out. Big stretch. Little reach and side bend. Little reach and side bend. Good, let's forward fold. Take it all the way down to the floor, touch those toes. Walk up the shins. We'll come down, framing a foot. We'll step back into our lizard. We're going to take that inside hand all the way up to the sky. We're going to rotate forearm to the floor. We'll come back up. We're going to bend at the 90, reach straight ahead, pull back in, take it all the way up, and rotate forearm to the floor. Good. Take it all the way back up. Plant that hand on the floor. Step back into my down dog. Reaching those hips, setting those shoulders. Just settle in here for a second. We're going to come back into our plank. Stepping the other foot up. Inside hand's going to reach way up. We're going to rotate. We're going to come back up. Bend to the 90. Reach straight ahead. Pull back. Reach straight up. And rotate. Up and plant that hand, set those shoulders as we step back into that down dog again. Nice open upper back, just kind of chilling out here, settling in, and then come back into our plank, pressing through those shoulders, tiptoe those feet up, and roll yourself all the way up. Big tall stretch overhead, and reach, yeah, and all the way back down. Nice. Get you guys fired up and ready to go. If you'd like to do a little bit more gentle warm-up, cat-cows, thread the needle, scat push-ups, whatever you'd like to do, maybe even more lizard lunge with rotation, please pause the video, take that down for yourself, and then come join me for what's to come. All right, our first work set of the day today is going to start off with our plank to down dog. So we're going to work on that nice dynamic kind of flow from one to the other. So I'm going to turn profile and get you guys kind of set up in our plank. So we're going to get our shoulders down. We're going to step our feet back into that nice plank position, pulling the shoulders up to the sky. We'll pull the ribs in as we find that nice hollow position. From here, I'm going to pull back, keeping those armpits pointing towards my toes, settling into that down dog, soft knees and ankles. I'm going to get that nice open upper back. So we want to have a neck when we do this down dog. Then as we pull back into our plank, we want to pull everything into that hollow and find that hollow as we approach that plank position. We'll pull back and up, armpits pointing towards the toes, opening up that upper back, rolling those shoulders around the body, and then again, finding that nice hollow as we come through. Now, if you have a hard time kind of engaging that hollow position as we're coming into our plank position, that's fine. Hit your plank, make sure we set that position first before going back into our down dog. Because we really want to focus on that shoulder position, making sure we have a neck and we're nice and supported as we go into that overhead position. So when you're coming back in again, we have that nice strong supported shoulder. Afterwards though, we're going to pop down onto our forearm plank, everyone's favorite, I know. We're going to get into our tabletop. And how you get into this is up to you, but I like to go through the table. I'm going to bring my elbows down to the floor. I'm going to press through my forearms. My elbow is stacked under my shoulder. I'm going to step back into that nice plank. I'm going to pull the ribs in, press the shoulders up, and I'm going to hold this position, working on that engagement the entire time. But if this position is a little too much for your positioning in your shoulders, we can maintain the hollow and just lower the knees gently, and we hold this nice hollow plank. And I can tell you from experience, and right now, that my core is not getting a rest. It is just taking a little bit of stress off the upper body, but that core position is firing hard. So regardless of going from toe to knee or doing it from the toe or the knees complete, it's all good. You're going to get a tremendous midsection kind of burn going on that forearm plank. After the forearm plank, we're going to come back up onto our hands with that nice wide grip, gripping the floor for our plank lean. So I'm going to face the camera for this one so you can see my engagement. So from here, I grip the floor, nice wide fingers. I get set up in my plank. Now, if I want to make it extra challenging, I'll bring my feet together, but if I need a little bit of space for balance, that's fine. I maintain this good plank position the whole time. I'm going to shift my weight through my upper body to my one side. I'm going to shift my weight through the upper body again, and then I'll come back to the center if I need to reset, maintain that position, and then continue on. I'm going to take my body over as far as I can maintain good position through the shoulders and with a good engagement through the wrists and the hands. So I don't want you to go so far that you feel pain or negative sensation in the wrist. I want you to really pay attention to that feeling and that sensation through the hands. After that, we have our quad plank to toe touch, and this is kind of a quad burner actually. It's very cool. So I'm going to get myself set up in my tabletop. My toes are curled under. I have nice wide fingers. I'm going to establish my engagement through the shoulders and my ribs, and I'm going to lift my knees an inch off the floor. From here, I'm in my quad plank, and what I'm going to do for 20 seconds is I'm going to shift back, touch a toe, come back into my quad plank, touch a toe, quad plank, touch a toe. And I'm just going to alternate back and forth, keeping that nice position, and those legs at kind of a 90 degree. So it's a really good burner. We want to make sure that our core and our quad plank doesn't change too much as we shift back and then back into it. So we're always pressing through the hands as we shift back into that forearm, or so that tabletop position. If you can go for the whole 20 seconds, just keeping it steady, do it. If you need to break, I totally understand. That thing burns a ton. So make sure position is on and work on that nice solid engagement through the core. Last but not least, in this first piece, we have our prone shoulder raise. So our prone shoulder raise is going to come from the floor. We're going to get ourselves on our stomachs, toes together. I'm going to squeeze my toes together and press them into the floor gently. I'm going to squeeze my glutes a bit and then pull my ribs in. Armpits press down, palms press down. From here, I'm going to maintain this engagement, and I'm going to focus on lifting an arm up off the floor as best I can, keeping the armpit towards the floor, and then lower. And
then lift, and then lower. The whole time maintaining that hollow position through my body. So we want to make sure that when we start to lift the arm, that it's not turning into an arch up. We want to make sure we hold that hollow position the entire time. Now, as a quick recap, what we have for you guys is a plank to down dog for 3 to 5, forearm plank hold for 20 to 30 seconds, plank lean for 10 alternating reps at a 1 to 2 second hold, quad plank to toe touch with 20 seconds of dynamic movement, and then a prone shoulder raise for 6 to 10 alternating reps, 2 to 3 rounds. Pause that video, take that down, get that body fired up. We're gonna come at you with a little bit more shoulder and core work to get you ready for our work set. All right, our next phase of work is gonna kickstart off with a nice floor pike hold. And this is gonna be one of those movements that if we'd like to substitute for our handstand hold, we can use that as one of our variations. So I'm gonna start in my tabletop, but I'm gonna bring my knees and my feet together. So my knees are under my hips, my toes are curled under, my hands are under my shoulders. And I'm gonna get a wide grip with my fingers, so wide bear paws. Gripping the floor with those hands, I'm gonna press into the shoulder, pull the ribs in, and I'm going to lift, trying to straighten my legs out as best I can into that nice supported position. So my shoulders are over my hands. I can tiptoe my feet a bit to get my hips a little bit higher over my hands as well. I'm gonna maintain that strong handstand position. So my goal is to keep this nice and tight, pressing through those arms, getting those shoulders up by the ears, pressing into the ground, and staying active the entire time. So if at any point in the 10 to 30 seconds you feel your shoulder disengage, or you feel your core start to get disengaged, come out of it. You can either go back into it and accumulate the time, or you can just take whatever hold you can manage between 10 to 30 seconds and call it a day. But we want to make sure we're banking good time in that strong supported position. Our next exercise is a little bit different. It's a forearm side plank with hip dip. So what we're going to do is we're going to get established in this nice kind of lounge position. My elbow is under my shoulder. And what I'm going to work on is engaging into this nice set shoulder position, lifting my hips into my side plank, and then I'm going to drop my hips and lift. Drop my hips, lift. Drop my hips, lift. The whole time I'm doing this as I'm staying active through my shoulders. Now I can also do this from the knees. So I get my knees bent, so I'm at that nice kind of 90 degree. And I'm going to come up into my forearm plank, drop, lift. Drop, lift. I know it doesn't seem like a big movement, but it burns. So be prepared. And if you can't quite keep steady for the whole 20 seconds, that's fine. If you have 20 seconds of that per side, take your time, work well with it, and just focus on that active shoulder. So we don't want to get this position here, this sunken shoulder close to the ear. We want to be actively pressing through that forearm and through that arm the whole time. After that, we're going to move into our hands again, kind of similar to our upper piece that we just did. We're going to work on a plank shoulder touch. So building from the plank lean, we are going to work on that lean, and then we're going to touch that same hand, same shoulder. We'll come back through, lean, same hand, same shoulder. And just work back and forth as we shift. So I'm going to get into my plank, wide fingers, tight position through the core, through the shoulders. I establish my lean when I feel comfortable and set through that arm. I'm going to come up and touch my shoulder. I'm going to shift. I'm going to come up and touch my shoulder. Shift, shoulder. And I'm trying to keep my hips and my chest square to the floor. So as I shift, I'm not trying to lift and rotate. I'm trying to stay square so that I'm not turning my body. I'm just lifting, touching, coming back down. Very challenging, hard to do in terms of maintaining that good lean. And we want to make sure that that balancing arm, the one that's going to be supporting us, is strong and steady before we take away that other arm of support. Our next exercise is a forearm plank hip dip for 20 seconds again of just dynamic movement. And this is a little different as well. So we're going to go into a full forearm plank. I'm going to face the camera so you can see my hips, and I'll show a couple from this side as well. I get my forearms down. I establish my forearm plank. I'm nice and tight through the shoulders and through the ribs, and I'm going to touch my hip to the floor if I can, touch my hip to the floor. I'm not touching the floor at this moment, but I'm aiming for the floor. So I don't want you to worry about touching, actually physically touching. I just want you to be like, hey, I'm going to take my hip to the ground. Oh, that's as far as I can maintain. Whoa, and then come back up. So I'm going to show you from the side and get myself set up, nice and tight through the ribs. I dip, come back up. Dip, come back up. Dip, come back up. I'm not losing contact with my forearm plank. It's staying flat on the floor, both arms. I'm just shifting my hips as deep as I can, shifting as deep as I can. And you notice I'm not trying to go super fast with that. I'm just trying to work on that control to shift my weight as I rotate a bit, rotate a bit. So take your time with those. They burn as well. Very challenging little movement, but take your time with them. You have 20 seconds. Doesn't matter how many reps you get. It's just for movement and getting that core fired up. At the end of all that, we're going to stand up nice and tall. And we're going to work on our dynamic triangle. So our feet are going to come into our sumo stance. One toe is going to go towards the wall. The other toe is going to go on an angle. So we're going to have our hips open on a slight angle. Hand is to the thigh, big reach to the ceiling. I'm going to pull the hip towards that back heel and take that hand down my shin. Keeping this arm up to the ceiling, I'm going to slowly come back up. And we're using this today just to kind of open up the body and the hips after being in all those kind of compressed positions on the floor in our forearm planks and in our full planks. So use it for what it is, just a nice gentle opening, chance to open up the T-spine, the chest, and open up those hips to move ourselves into the work set. Quick recap, we have a floor pike hold for 10 to 30 seconds, forearm side plank hip dip, 20 seconds per side, plank shoulder touch for 10 alternating, forearm plank hip dip, 20 seconds of just dynamic movement, and then a dynamic triangle for 3 to 5 a side. 2 to 3 rounds through that, get yourself ready, fired up, get that core fired up and ready to go. We're going to talk about our work set that's coming your way right away. All right, so the workout is here. We have a 10-minute on the minute, so that's 5 rounds of work, which equals out to 10 minutes of work in total. Minute number 1 is going to be a handstand hold or handstand variation. So if you have wall space, you can kick up into a wall. You can wall walk up into a wall, do a wall-facing handstand. You can also do a wall angle hold. So you're going to be at a nice angle on the wall in that wall-facing position. Or if you have something like a couch, an ottoman, a chair, something you can use to put your feet up or your knees up, we can do our first variation of the day, which is a box handstand or a chair handstand or whatever you would like to call it. So our first variation is from the knees. So what I'm going to do is get my knees on this box, and I'm going to work on keeping my heels towards my glutes. Hands are going to be under my shoulders, wide fingers, pressing through the shoulders, and I'm going to press through the floor and keep those shoulders over the hands and try and stack the hips as best I can over my shoulders as well. Pressing actively like I was in the floor pike hold, I'm just going to be loading the shoulders just a little bit more with that elevated position. Now if my hamstrings will allow it, I can also do this with a straight leg with my toes on the box. So my toes are going to go in the middle of the box. I'm going to get myself set up. Toes are in. I walk myself in until I'm stacked over my shoulders, pressing to the floor, armpits towards the box, nice straight legs, tuck through that rib, and just hold that position again. Walk myself out and get myself down. So if I'm not super comfortable with being upside down, I can also use this box for an elevated plank. So if I still want to have some elevation, a little bit more loading into the shoulders, I can put my feet on this box in the middle, hands go under my shoulders, gripping the floor, pulling the ribs in, pressing through the shoulders, and keeping my shoulders over the hands. I'm going to work that hollow, I'm going to work an elevated plank. So if you're not quite comfortable being inverted, that's a great way to load the shoulders just a little bit more and still get that benefit in that core and shoulder position. I'm going to move the box out of the way for a second so I have a little more space because we have a couple other options on the floor. One of which we did in our warm-up earlier, which is a floor pike hold. So we'll do a quick little recap on that one. My knees and my feet come together in my tabletop. Wide grip of my fingers, so my bare paws, nice and wide in the thumb and pinky. I press my shoulders up, my ribs in, and I lift those hips straight up. So we're pressing through the floor the whole time, pulling those ribs in the whole time, and I'm holding that nice stacked position as best I can and engaged as much as I can. Now, if I'm not comfortable again with inversion, I can also hold my plank. So I'm going to pull my ribs in, press my shoulders up, and hold that nice plank position and build that strength there. So from there, I'm going to work on some wrist strength, some hand strength, and I'm gripping the floor, pressing through the shoulders to maintain those positions I need in my work set. Now, after that, our next exercise on minute number 2 is one of two things: a bent row and a dumbbell pullover. Seeing as though I'm already on the floor and my dumbbell's here, I'm going to start with the pullover, and then I'll pull the box back in and show the bent row. So my feet are going to be just outside my fingers, like a bridge. I'm going to pull my ribs and hips in, and I'm going to take the dumbbell up and over my chest, holding the bell by the top. So the bottom of the bell is hanging towards my chest. I'm pressing up into the dumbbell to hold. My elbows are soft, so they're pointing out slightly. I'm going to slowly bring the dumbbell down overhead, keeping those elbows soft, keeping those arms nice and engaged. So I'm pressing a little bit into the dumbbell as I lower, and then I press it up over my chest. I'm going to let the dumbbell come down, but as I said before, I'm pressing a little bit into the dumbbell to control the descent. And then I'm going to press it up and work that range. Now if I like, I can hold the bell by both bells. Elbows are still soft, and I can work on that same movement, that same flow, and take the dumbbell all the way to the floor and come back up. That one requires a little bit more range of motion. So if you're comfortable with that one, you can play with it, or you can do it with the bell hanging, which is going to limit your range of motion just a little bit. Now I'm going to bring the box back into effect to simulate a bench. So what we can do for our bent row, if we're going to choose the bent row, I'll get myself set up. My knee is on the bench, my hand is on the bench, or whatever I'm using. My other hand is be holding the dumbbell, nice and set and tight through the core. I'm going to let that arm kind of hang a bit, and then I'm going to engage through that upper back, pulling the shoulder back, pulling the dumbbell into that low rib, and then lower back down, letting that shoulder kind of hang a bit. And then I engage through the upper back to pull and finish with the arm. So I'm getting a little bit of upper back engagement first to pull that shoulder into place, and then I finish with the arm. It's not segmented, it's not two separate movements, but what we want to keep in mind is that shoulder pulling back first into the arm pull. And it's not just the arm pull. So we want to make sure we get that upper back firing, so we're building up that back strength. Quick recap on that work set, you guys. We've been on the minute for 10 minutes, which is 5 rounds of work. Minute number 1, handstand hold of 30 to 45 seconds of whatever variation you'd like to do. Minute number 2, bent row for 5 to 8 per side, or dumbbell pullover for 10 to 20 reps in total. Pick your choice on minute 2, whatever one you want to work on the most you can play with, and choose a load that you can move smoothly. It's not super easy, but we want to make sure we can get the reps in on both sides of the bent row and those reps in for the pullover with a little bit of time remaining. So choose your loads wisely and have some fun with this one. Pause the video, take it down. I'm going to go through the last little bit, which is a little bit of upper body kind of warm down, we'll call it, and get you guys fired up to take on the day. All right. This last piece of our day is kind of optional if you'd like to take it down. We're going to go through a little bit of shoulder kind of love, some I.W.Ys and Ys, some windmill, and some overhead good mornings. So the I.W.Ys and Ys are pretty straightforward. I'm going to turn to the side so you can see my hinge. I'm going to let my body pull back like I was going to do a deadlift. I'm going to keep my arms hanging straight down. My I is going to be lifting my arms up straight up. My W is framing my body, and I'll show you that from the front in a second. And then my Y, we come out on that diagonal. So from the front, I hinge, same way. I come straight up. W frames the body. Y goes out in that diagonal position. All right? So take your time with these. We want to keep the arms straight, the core tight, and we want to keep that nice open shoulder position. So we're not shrugging in, keeping that shoulder close to the ear. Our shoulder is setting down and just working on the range of motion that we have. Don't worry if you can't get it super high. Just take it to where you can and it'll help open up those shoulders and strengthen them up a bit. After that, we have our windmill. So my feet are gonna be in my squat stand, or my sumo stance. I'm gonna pick my favorite arm. Arm is gonna come up into the air, armpits facing forward, my hand is gonna be down, and I'm gonna take my hips back and my body down as I rotate at my low rib. My arm is staying in the same position, except because my torso is rotating at the low rib, the body and the arm angle is gonna change. But the kicker is my arm isn't moving on its own. From mid to low rib up, it stays in place and it just moves as one piece. So we have to really focus on that shoulder to make sure that it's not moving on its own as I'm rotating through. So it doesn't matter how deep you get in that windmill, take it down as deep as you can maintain that good shoulder position and overhead. Last but not least, we have our overhead good morning. So I'm gonna turn sideways so you guys can see that hinge. My feet can be in a squat stance, hip width stance, or sumo stance, whatever feels most comfortable for you. I'm gonna take my arms into my overhead position, keeping my ribs in, my glutes are tight, and I'm gonna pull my hips back like a good morning, but also focusing on my overhead position. So my shoulders are gonna stay still as I pull back. So my whole body, fingertip to hip crease, right here, is moving as one piece. So there's a lot to think about. So as we pull back with the hips, sometimes we forget about the shoulder, and the shoulder kind of dips a bit. We just have to keep thinking about pressing and holding. I like to think about holding a plate over my head. We're not doing it loaded, but if you think about that visual in your mind about, okay, what would I need to do if I had a plate over my head? Something you could also do is grab a tea towel or something super light that you can activate through a little bit and hold some engagement through there, and that can help a lot as well, keeping that overhead position. You can take these things down 1 to 3, 5 rounds if you like. It's just a really nice opportunity to kind of play around with some upper body love and just some finer tuning in those key positions. It's a nice way to close off our day today. Now, as a quick recap, we have I.W.Ys and Ys for 5 each position, windmill for 6 to 10 alternating, and an overhead good morning for 5 reps. Pause the video, take that down, have an enjoyable time with this work set, you guys, and please, please, please let me know how this one went, what you did for your handstands, your bent row, or your pullover, whatever you did, let me know. As always, this is a beautiful day to work for quality. We just have a ton of fun. We're gonna be starting to move into some intensity, building into the open this weekend, so it's gonna be a good time this week. So stay tuned for some fun stuff. Today, enjoy the skill work, strength work, and our good strong positions. Bye, you guys.